Everyone has the right to speak.
Republican member of Senate Judiciary and Armed Services Committees is here with me down the stretch. So first of all, what do you make of these latest power rankings shifting over to the GOP? Just slightly, but it's happening. Doesn't count Democrats out completely, but what's going on in your estimation?
Well, Harris, it's not surprising that more Americans are repudiating Joe Biden and the Washington Democrats' agenda. You just look at the headlines. Inflation continues to run very high. The stock market has fallen precipitously over the last year and a half. More crime on the streets across America. We have a drug epidemic unlike anything this country has ever seen. I was on the campaign trail yesterday in Pennsylvania with Dr. Oz. We visited a natural gas pad in western Pennsylvania. That natural gas provides thousands of good, high-paying jobs to hardworking Pennsylvanians and Ohioans. It also provides low-cost energy to America. It helps America support our allies around the world who'd rather get American gas rather than Russian gas. And it's good for our environment because it's so clean burning as opposed to, say, foreign coal. Yet John Fetterman and Joe Biden and the Democrats would ban the techniques that we have to get that gas out of the ground. That's why Democrats are losing in the polls. That's why they're going to lose badly in 3 weeks.
I don't know how much time John Fetterman has to focus on that with crime that's just out of control, particularly in Philadelphia. I wholeheartedly mean that. He might have been part of the problem with words like show the criminals mercy. So that's a big way to go. And now you got energy mixed in too. Inflation. And it gets mentioned every conversation. You mentioned it a few moments ago. A few days ago, President Biden said there may be a chance of a slight recession, but maybe just slight. Well, Bloomberg out with a new projection. There is a 100% chance of a recession in the next year, given the decade's high inflation, Fed interest hikes, and tense political climate. The economy, of course, we know the senator is top of mind for voters. A New York Times poll shows concern over economic issues have jumped to 44% from 36% a few weeks ago in summer. Americans also are weary when it comes to the president's performance on those top issues. New Fox polling puts Biden's inflation approval at just 29%. Where are the 29% who actually like where inflation is? The White House doing pretty much anything they can, they say, to defend him. Let's watch together.
If President Biden's top domestic priority is inflation, why doesn't he have more to show for it?
So he's been very clear about making that his number one economic priority. And he's done the work with congressional Democrats.
But who exactly thinks the president is doing a good job on inflation?
We understand that there are challenges that are in front of us here in this country. That is why the president has taken action to lower costs. Republicans in Congress refuse. They refuse to be partners with us on this.
All right, we'll hear from Democrats in a moment. I want to get your direct reaction to what she's talking about from the White House lectern.
Sorry for me, I'm a big girl and I go
Well,
back
guilty as
and do
charged
it
that
again.
Republicans in Washington have refused to spend trillions of dollars we don't have. Joe Biden and the Democrats don't have an answer on inflation because they're the cause of inflation. There's two main reasons we have this inflation at generational highs. The first is Democrats have spent trillions of dollars that we don't have. It was completely obvious and predictable. In fact, it was predicted, not just by Republicans, but by Democrats like former Treasury Secretary Larry Summers, that spending all that money would lead to inflation. Yet the Democrats kept spending it. Even after we had record high inflation, just a couple months ago, they spent another $700 billion. The second reason we have so much inflation is the price of energy is so high, because it doesn't just hit families in their budget when the price they pay for gasoline is high. It drives up the cost of manufacturing, it drives up the cost of doing business, it drives up the cost of transportation, and that very much is an intentional policy. The Democrats want energy prices to be high because they want to end American production of fossil fuels, oil and gas and coal. They may not say it in the 45 days before an election. They may rely on gimmicks like releasing oil from the Strategic Petroleum Reserve, which is also dangerous to our national security. But mark my words, on November 9th, the Democrats are going to go back to openly waging war on American oil, gas, and coal.
When you say words like intentional crisis, all I can think of is our power grids are still about 80% dependent on fossil fuels and or coal. I mean, I don't know what they're thinking they're doing, but they're actually making that situation weaker using electricity. I mean, I remember a few weeks ago, you do too, when the governor of California said, we're in a heat wave, stop plugging in your electric cars. I mean, it's a world of hurt that they brought with the policies. And now for the Democrats, Senator, who also are not getting what they need from the president. Watch.
The president over the weekend said the economy is, quote, strong as hell. Do you agree with that?
I think there is much more the administration needs to do, especially around energy costs.
Wow. Oh, boy, that's like losing a relative, Hassan. And you say what to that?
Yeah. Well, every one of these Democrats, Maggie Hassan in New Hampshire, Raphael Warnock in Georgia, Mark Kelly in Arizona, Catherine Cortez Masto in Nevada, any one of them could have put their foot down in a 50-50 Senate and demanded that Joe Biden stop his war on American oil and gas and coal. And they didn't. They were a rubber stamp for Joe Biden. And a vote for any Democrat this year is a vote for Joe Biden's agenda. If you want affordable and reliable energy in this country, you need to vote Republican on November 8th.
Yeah, you have really tied that with inflation, unlike the president was able to tie his Inflation Reduction Act to actual inflation and reducing it. Just one quick one. Fox News polling shows extremely or very concerned. They ask voters their number one thing by 89%, inflation/higher prices. Democrats are in trouble. They have only 21 days to figure that one out. Will they do it? Meanwhile, President Biden is... Oh, go ahead, your quick thought.
No, they won't do it again because it's their policies that have caused this inflation, sometimes intentionally caused it in the form of high gasoline prices. So of course they're not going to figure it out. They just hope that they can distract the American people for another 21 days so they can get back to those harmful policies.
President Biden is scrambling to tame just what Senator Cotton's talking about. Boy, he knows. It's the gas prices. They got to get their arms around this. In 21 days, the administration now reportedly plans to release that 10 million to 15 million barrels of oil from their strategic reserves. Now, they've already done this to the point where we're lower than we have been, the lowest level in nearly 4 decades. The average price of a gallon of regular unleaded today, $3.87. That's up 55 cents over last year. And it's only going up day by day, week by week now, because there's so much pressure, right? And it's getting colder. Biden is playing a very familiar blame game over the recent uptick. He's added a new boogeyman to his growing list of villains. Watch this.
I realize costs are going up on food. And I was able to bring gasoline down well over $1.60, but it's inching up because of what the Russians and the Saudis just did. I'm not finished with that yet.
Alrighty, so now we have the oil industry he blames, the mom and pops, the corporation, Putin, and now Saudi Arabia. I guess no more fist bumps.
Yeah, Joe Biden should look in the mirror if he wants to figure out the reason for high gas prices. Remember, in the campaign, he promised to end fossil fuels in America. That's why we have an energy crisis in America. It doesn't help that Joe Biden and the Democratic Party have ostracized Saudi Arabia for years now, in no small part because they opposed Barack Obama and Joe Biden's reckless nuclear deal with Iran. But the bottom line is, we shouldn't have to rely on anyone for our oil and gas and coal. We have more than enough, not only to support our own needs, but to support our friends around the world. We certainly shouldn't resort to dangerous gimmicks like drawing down our strategic petroleum reserve. We shouldn't have to go hat in hand to dictatorships like Venezuela and Iran. We really shouldn't even have to rely on friendly nations like Saudi Arabia and Canada that supply other nations. We can supply our own energy if we will simply unleash America's miners and roughnecks and the entrepreneurs who are ready to get the resources out of the ground that God put in to help power our economy and provide affordable, reliable energy for America's families and businesses.
Now, I hope no one missed what you just said, because we get the part about how we now are no longer independent or self-sufficient, and that is horrible. But we could be making money on the deal. That's what you just said, too. We could be supplying others. We could actually make a profit on this and then transition to what we think is the right way to go. I want to know more about your Pennsylvania energy trip another time. That caught my eye and ear. Senator, thank you for being in focus today.
I was very clear in my objection to his policies, but I never rooted for America to fail.
Over the course of the entire summer, so that everyone in Washington can pat themselves on the back and say that they did something.
Can't even listen to what someone has to say because you despise the man who is president. You undermine. America today is a land of total chaos and confusion. Career criminals roam freely among us. Maniacs tearing down the values of the United States itself. Everyone has the right to speak. But